On Maruti Suzuki presents ESPN Cricinfo T20 timeout. We are desperately hoping that New Zealand and Sri Lanka give us some cricket. We've gone 2 games with not a single ball. New Zealand have gone 2 games without doing much. They've had to make the trip from Sydney to Perth and back to Sydney now. They'll finally get to play, we'd hope. And Tom Moody is in studio with me. We'll hear from Stephen Fleming shortly. I wonder if you'd still call New Zealand red hot after that win against Australia, given how far back that seems to be now, Tom.
That's the first thing I was thinking about. You know, it was a remarkable opening game for them, and I just wonder whether a little bit of that momentum may have been lost, particularly sort of seeing how things have unfolded. But you know, they're reasonably calm group of players. They're certainly calmly led by Kane Williamson, so I'd imagine they would have done their homework in preparation for Sri Lanka. But then again, Sri Lanka have had their issues, so who knows what playing 11 they're going to come out with because they've had the injuries.
Yes, of course, you have to keep an eye on that. They're going to lose Binura Fernando next up, and whether they replace him with Pramod Madushan or one of the reserve players they've called up, Asita Fernando, Patirana, they're all on their way to join the squad. So keep an eye out for Sri Lanka team news selection. Now, would New Zealand have been affected by this long break, Flem? Or because they beat Australia, that celebration might have lasted longer?
Yeah, maybe just the idle hands, just not being able to do anything, and the nerves around Afghanistan. I think that would have been a tricky game for them, Afghanistan with the spinners, and if you get behind in a game like that, Afghanistan can be a very tough game. So they would have been up for that, and then disappointment of not playing. But while there's a little bit of carnage with the rain and different permutations going on, it's sort of hard to really narrow back down to what you need to do and not get too caught up if this happens there and that happens there. Really focus on the Sri Lankan game, which is again going to be another tough game. And given they've got England as well, they've got to play and continue that form that they showed in the first game to get through and warrant getting through in a strong position in this pool.
All right, we tend to pick a player to put in the spotlight on the eve of this game. We've picked Mitchell Santner today on the basis of some numbers. Excellent economy rate and dot ball percentage for Santner. I wonder if Stephen Fleming can throw some light on what role he expects Santner to play in this World Cup. Flem, is he there? Does he play the role of a wicket taker? He picked up 3 against Australia. Does he play the more controlled sort of role that a left-arm spinner tends to?
Well, he does a bit of both, really. He was outstanding the other night. There was a little bit of turn at Sydney. There hasn't been a lot of turn the other grounds, but Sydney offered a little bit. And with scoreboard pressure, he was able to work away quite defensively and have Australia come to him. The challenge is when he has to work over a batsman and use the turn, because the strength is really the subtlety of the arm ball and just a little bit of turn. And in T20 cricket, all you're trying to do is get the outside edge of the bat. And with these big grounds, you're likely to get these pop-ups and get the dismissals. India and other grounds, maybe around the subcontinent, those sort of half hits go for 6. But in these types of venues, he is very difficult because he just does enough and he's very subtle with a late release. So he's really watching the batsman at the other end. He can get the pop-ups because he just tricks guys into coming down the wicket or coming at him. And he's never quite there or hurries on. And that's sort of Daniel Vettori-like. Who I know was one of his role models, and that's the sort of role he's playing, but a very skillful player, a very skillful bowler.
Enjoy bowling at the SCG more than other places, perhaps? This is where this game is, Tom?
Yeah, definitely. Well, as Flem said, there was a little bit of turn there. And I think, you know, you can, from a spinning perspective, afford to bowl the ball slower there to allow it to turn. There's a lot of venues that you don't want to be bowling too slowly, as we saw recently with Hasaranga at Perth Stadium. You know, that's a surface you need to bowl, you know, immaculate length and a little bit quicker, otherwise you're going to disappear.
New Zealand favourites, you think, for this one?
Yeah, I do. And, you know, obviously Sri Lanka have had their issues with injuries. Yeah. They've also been sort of kicked sideways a little bit with the recent loss. But New Zealand, I think, have just got the momentum, and you know, it's going to be an important game for a few players in that New Zealand setup to just get their games in order. But I see them as favourites.
You share that, Flem?
Yeah, I do. Maybe it's just that sort of nervous New Zealand aspect. I see that the Sri Lankan batting order as being dangerous, and then the spinners come into play. So they just got to be wary of that. If they can use a little bit of swing early on and make some inroads with that batting order, and then just play the spin really well, then they should be a good chance.